Okay, hi everyone. My name is Ti, and I'm your instructor for the Knitting 101 course. And we've had about two classes already, thanks to Better Spaces. They are the one that sponsored this class and have me here instructing for you guys. As I like to say, I am here for you. This class is to help you. So as I'm going along, feel free to jump in the chat. Um, maybe put up a hand or write in the chat message box to let me know if I need to slow down or go over something again. Before we jump into it, I am going to put a couple of links in here that I like to share with you all. So, firstly, is the Yarn Council website. This is to help you figure out what needle size you need. It also helps you with certain measurements, like if you're trying to make something like a hat, it has different sizes for different ages. Um, I am going to also put in the knitting class info where I upload the videos once I receive them back from the company. So that's my YouTube channel playlist that you're able to access and rewatch any video that you may need to in order to kind of practice and go over it on your own. And then last but not least, yeah, I think that's it. All right, so those two should be it. Oh, yeah, and then I also like to leave my email. A few of you did email me asking me for the video, just so you know, once I do the video, it takes a few days for the, you know, let's say social media manager to come back and give me access to those videos in order for me to download, and then I'll upload it for you guys. So if you want, you can keep maybe a tab open with that playlist. I try to upload it as soon as I can. If you're not able to, feel free to send me an email and I'll go ahead and link that video for you. So let's jump right into it. Um, let's do this. All right. So here we have the yarn. I'm using these are 9 millimeter needles. And today we're going to be working on doing the purl stitch. But before we go into the purl stitch, I do want to do a quick refresher for you guys. And hopefully you guys are able to see better with this setup. I felt like the angle was a little bit too tight on the other camera. So I switched it out for you guys. Let me know if you need me to zoom in, zoom out a little bit more. Just feel free to leave all of that in the chat. So we are going to start by going over how we start getting our yarn on the needle. And we start that by doing a slip knot. And you do that by basically creating a U with the yarn. You have the end of the yarn here, and you have what's called the working end of the yarn. And that end is attached to the ball of yarn. So you can either go ahead and twist the yarn just like that, and then you're going to take up the yarn that's attached to the ball, so the working end, and you're going to pull that through. And then you take your needle, either a straight needle or this is a circular needle, and that's how you go ahead and start with a slip knot. Another way to start is by just the same U. You place your knitting needle through that U. You do what I call the slingshot method, and you're putting it under here, then under this portion here, and then through the space here. And again, I did go through this a little bit slower in the other video. It is the first video on the playlist, so feel free to jump back to that. So this is just a quick refresher. So that's how you kind of get your yarn onto your needle. After you do that, you continue by the same method of slingshot, putting it under here, through this portion and then back through this hole here. And I also taught you guys after, let's say we get about, let's get maybe 10 stitches on the needle. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We have 11, which is fine. After you do that, when your work is facing you, it'll look like this. Let me zoom in a little bit for you guys. Make sure it's nice and crisp. Okay, so once you cast on and you have your stitches on your needle, it will essentially look like this. On one side, almost have a little bit of a wave pattern. And then on the other end, you have a bumpy pattern. So whenever you start to work, once you cast on, you're turning your work so that you're seeing the bumpy portion, so that you're seeing the bumpy portion of your work. Then we did the knit stitch, and the knit stitch is when the working yarn is behind your needle. You take your other needle and you're inserting it from the back of the stitch. You're taking your yarn and you're wrapping it and you're pulling it through, and then you're slipping it off the needle on your left hand side. So again, you're putting your yarn, just make sure, putting your yarn from the back here, pushing it through, as you can see, and you're wrapping it around and you're pulling through. And like I said in the last video, there's two popular ways of knitting. There's the English style of knitting, and then there's the continental style. This that I'm showing you here is the continental style of knitting. If you are, more familiar or you want to try the English style, you would drop your working end yarn. You put your needle, same thing through, but instead of using your left hand to kind of work it and pull it through, you're using your right hand to wrap it around that needle and then pulling it through. Once you pull it through, then you slide the yarn off of your needle. So again, we're going to go in to our yarn, or stitch, I should say, wrapping it around with your working yarn. Do that again. As you can see, this is not my preferred method. So I'm a little bit more clumsier when I'm doing the English style, but essentially this is what you're doing. So insert, wrapping around, you're kind of holding on with your thumb and your index to kind of give a good grip so that it doesn't just fall off the needle, so that you're able to pull it through and then slide off. Now with the continental, I hold it with my left hand and then insert the needle, and all of it is done in one swoop. So I am not letting go of my needles at all. Oh, let's insert this back in. Let's do two more. And that is the knit stitch. So I'm also going to show you where you have a better view. I made a ready-made project for you guys. Let me just zoom out a bit so that you could see it. So here we have the straight needles. Just now we're using the circular needle. So last class, I spoke about just doing the knit stitch. And when you do the knit stitch, every time that you turn your work is going to look like this. So this side over here, that just looks like a bunch of waves. This is what your work is going to look like, and this is called the garter stitch. So it's a beautiful pattern, and you just have to do the knit stitch, which is a lot simpler, takes less dexterity than the purl stitch. But we are going to also do the purl stitch because if you want your work to look like this, and actually let me add something here that I was telling you guys about last class. This is a stopper. So this will help stop my work from sliding off the needle. So put the stopper here, and then here, if you like the knit stitch, so this is the knit stitch when it has the V, just like you see those V's here. That's the knit stitch. In order to have the knit stitch that you see on a lot of garments, whenever you're buying knitwear, you are going to have to learn how to purl. The only way you don't have to learn how to purl is if you just continue to work in the round. And we'll talk about that once we get into kind of making maybe a hat or something. We'll do working in the round. If you're working in the round, you essentially are just knitting all the time and you'll still get this knit stitch texture. This is called the stockinette stitch. When it's just all knits, it's just a stockinette stitch. Sorry, guys. So I'm going to show you by keeping both works on the needle. What I did is I cast on 24 stitches and I did 12 in garter stitch and I did 12 in stockinette stitch so that you guys could be able to see better. So on the first round, like I said before, with garter stitch, you are just knitting. So I'm just going to knit all the way down. And then I'm going to show you the difference once we are over by the knit. It's a little cumbersome for me to work with these straight needles. And if you need me to zoom in more, just let me know if you're not able to see clearly what's happening. Okay, so we just did the garter stitch portion. You can see the front side, we did knitting. Over on this side, where we have the stockinette stitch, where we see the knit stitch, which this is the I guess this is the style that you see whenever you see these V's, that's the knit stitch. But at the front part where you're seeing the knit, you're going ahead and you're doing the knit stitch. It's a lot of banging on the table. I'm sorry, guys. So you're going to continue doing the knit stitch. Okay. Now, as we turn our work around, here's the difference, right? So over on this side, the same stockinette, the same garter stitch that we just knit on both sides, you could see the stitch and the pattern is a little bit tighter. The waves are a lot thicker. It just makes a different fabric overall. You could also see that with both, the garter stitch is a little bit shorter than the stockinette stitch. And that's because with the garter stitch, they're just pushed together a little bit more. So you'll get a thicker fabric, but you're going to have to use more yarn when you're doing the garter stitch. Not that much more, but it's something to think about. Now, for today's class, we're going to be focused on doing the purl stitch. So we did the knit stitch and the purl stitch. Whenever you're just doing knitting, the other side is going to look like this. And this is what purl stitch looks like. So it kind of resembles the stockinette, not the stockinette, the garter stitch over here, the garter stitch over here. but as you can see, it's not stacked on top of each other. And that's what gives the garter stitch that look. So whenever you're doing the purl stitch, I'm gonna get a little bit close for you guys. Make sure it's crisp. Okay, so whenever you're doing the purl stitch, when we are knitting, the working yarn, sorry, the working yarn is behind. When we are purling, the working yarn is in front. So the needle goes in instead of from the back here, it's going to go in from the front. So we're going to place our needle in from the front, the same yarn over, and we're going to pull that through. So I'm going to do that again. So like I said, when we are knitting, the working yarn is behind. When we are purling, we bring that working yarn to the front. You go from the front, your insert from like almost, I don't know if you could see, almost from top to bottom is how you're going in. Instead of from back to front, it's from top to bottom. So you're going in from the front, you're yarning over, and you're pulling through. So again, in from the front, wrapping your yarn around and pulling through. If you are doing the English style of knitting, again, I'm dropping that yarn and pushing my needle through. I'm taking the yarn now and I'm wrapping around, making sure to hold on to that yarn and pull through. It's a whole thing. Um, I'm gonna go back to my continental style. So go back in from the front, wrapping around and pulling through. In, yarn over, and pull through. So this essentially creates, oh, I messed up. All right, so this is a good part to show too. I did mess up on my purl stitch and how you fix that, just like a little preview of what we'll do in the errors lesson, is that you'll just go into the bottom stitch by going into that hole. So you go into that, you pull your needle out, and then it's almost like a reset. So through that bottom, I hope you guys are seeing well. Please let me know if you guys are seeing what I'm saying well enough. So again, I'm going to go from the front, push, and pull through. And I'm actually going to switch over to my circular needle because it's just very cumbersome with the straight needle. And I feel like maybe you'll get a better visual if I use the circular one. Plus you get like a nice contrast. So I'm going to keep both. And while I work from the bamboo needle to the metal needle, it'll come all off on the metal needle. So again, let's tuck this right in here. Okay, so again, we're going to take our working yarn, put it to the front, insert that needle, wrap around, and pull through and slide off. So before we continue, as you can see, what's happening on this side that we're working on is when we're purling on one side, we're creating the knit stitch on the other side. When we're knitting, doing the knit stitch on one side, we are creating the purl stitch on the other side. Let me know if you guys have any questions while I continue to show you guys how to purl, or if you need me to redo any portion. Wait, let's not forget. 11, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Let's take this back off. To continue on this side that we have the garter stitch, we're going to knit. We put our working yarn in the back and we're working from the front. So instead of going in like this, we're going in from the back here. All right, we've been released from the streets, the street needles. All right, hopefully this helps with the clamoring a bit. So we're back on the front side of our work. Again, this is the knit stitch from the back. So right in between where the first two stitches on the needle are. So right here, insert, wrap around the needle that we just inserted, and then pull that through. So wherever we're putting this needle, there is two stitches in between. So it won't be in front here to push through here. It's going to be between two stitches, okay? From the back, go to the front, wrap around, and pull through. From the back, pull through. Now we're at the stockinette stitch, and that's when you're knitting the knits and purling the purls. We're on the knit side, so we're going to knit the knits, okay? Essentially, where you see knit stitches, which is these nice V's here, that's where you're going to do your knits. Yarn underneath your needle that has all the stitches on it. Go from the back, wrap, pull through. From the back, wrap, pull through. And then you turn your work. Now on that same stockinette stitch portion, I'm gonna grab the end of our circular needle. The yarn, the working yarn is in the back. Wherever we put this needle, there's no stitch on one side. Remember when we knitted, there's a stitch on both sides. So when you go like this, there's a stitch here, okay? But when we're purling, there's only a stitch on one side. So you're going to insert from the top into that. Sorry, let's bring our working yarn to the front first. Insert, wrap that around, and pulling through. Insert, wrap that around, and I'm gonna go as slow as I possibly can. Just make sure you're seeing everything. So I'm going in almost like the two needles are combining, like look at this motion. Going in, we're wrapping the yarn around, pulling that through. Whenever you pull through, you are sliding that entire stitch off your left needle and onto your right needle. So again, inserting from front to back, sorry, inserting front to back, wrapping around, pulling through. And as you can see, whenever I was using the bamboo needle, it was not sliding off as easy, which is why I say the bamboo can sometimes be a little bit easier if you're a very beginner. That way it just kind of keeps the stitch in place. Sometimes the metal can be a little bit too slippery. So if you don't have full control of your stitch, it could go all over the place. So that's something to think about. So here we have the purl side. And as you can see, we did knit stitch for the knit side. So I'm going to put that down, switch over. All right, so let me know if you guys have any questions. If you need me to redo anything. Quickly, I wanted to show you guys this as well. So whenever we are working on our project, and I mentioned that you'll want to get stitch markers, and you could use anything for stitch markers at the, well, I've used anything as stitch markers. Um, I've used one of my wedding bands, and I'll put it here, and sometimes I'll forget it. But you could also use these here. These are circular stitch markers, and they come in different sizes, and you could put that here. It's really helpful, especially when you're doing like something like this, where we have a certain amount that we're doing one stitch and then another amount that we're doing another stitch. Sometimes it's nice to have just a nice divider here so you don't have to count to remember. Another great stitch marker, I've used safety pins, I've used a bobby pin, and you use those essentially like this, where you'll take it and instead of attaching it to your needle, you're going to attach it to the actual yarn. So let's say I want to mark that this stitch is where I'm at, or this stitch I need to, this is where I left off, and I'm in maybe row 6 of the pattern. Then I'll take a label like this, or just like a little piece of paper, and I'll notate, sorry, the light is a little bit bright. Okay. And I'll notate whatever I want to notate here, because sometimes as you start knitting or crocheting, you end up kind of moving around from one project to the other. So it's nice to go ahead and notate wherever you left off. If you're not notating, then you could just put the bobby pin or a safety pin like this and just leave it right here so that whenever I get up to this part, I know I do the stockinette stitch. So that's something that I wanted to show you guys. So if that's it, if we don't have any questions, I think we're going to end it here. If you do find that you have something that you missed, feel free to email me and I'll try to answer that for you in the email or whenever I do the next class, I'll touch on that before we get into the new topic. But that is going to be it for this class. Thank you guys for joining me again for another knitting session. The next class will be next Wednesday, same time, 12 o'clock. And we'll be covering a little bit more. We're going to start a project of maybe an air warmer, a scarf if you guys want to. So, yeah, pretty exciting next week. So, thank you guys again, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.